Forgiveness. Ah, what a sweet word for a world that bleeds in silence. They say it's noble, they say it's light, but those who repeat it have never looked a traitor in the eye. Forgiveness is the arms of the tamed spirit. It's the last breath of the weak, the trembling gesture of those who beg for peace because they've already given up on victory. Modern civilization, Christianized, moralized, emasculated, has made forgiveness a religion, a moral drug. But every time you forgive someone who wanted your ruin, you're not being great. You're being naive. And the naive in the game of power are not innocent. They are complicit in their own downfall. Forgiving without absolute power is inviting the serpent back into the garden. The enemy you once wounded learned something if you spared him, that you hesitated, that you tremble before justice, and he will return, not with the same poison, but with a more sophisticated one. And you, now with your soul filled with good concerns, will be more fragile, more exposed, more trusting. Compassion as a habit is a piecemeal suicide. So I ask you, when you forgive, what are you really doing? Are you freeing yourself? Or are you teaching the world that it can be hurt with impunity? Answer in the comments. When was the last time your mercy became your weakness? They told you forgiveness sets you free. No, it shackles your instinct, blinds your clarity, neuters your will. You are not liberated by mercy. You are disarmed by it, the one who hurt. You seize your kindness not as divinity, but as delay, a pause in their campaign, a moment to sharpen the knife. Forgiveness without domination is not grace. It is surrender dressed in holy robes. And the world is not a church. It is a battlefield. You do not kneel to pray, you kneel to bleed. The predator who watches you will not be converted by your compassion. He will be encouraged by it, encouraged to strike harder, deeper, when your back is turned. Power respects only power, the forgiven. Enemy learns nothing except your threshold. He does not repent. He calculates, he adapts. You gave him one life. He will use it to study how to take yours. And when he does, he will smile at your mercy before he kills you. Tell me, what empire was ever built on forgiveness? What throne was secured by mercy alone? None. Mercy is a luxury of emperors who have already crushed their rivals. Mercy is only beautiful when everyone knows what horrors you were capable of instead. Anything less is not virtue. It's an invitation to be betrayed. The modern soul is sick with sentiment. It confuses weakness for wisdom, hesitation for depth, forgiveness for transcendence. But what is forgiveness if not a refusal to judge reality? It is a refusal to say, "This was evil and I will not allow it again." Instead, the herd morality preaches love for the wolf while it devours the lambs. It asks you to smile while bleeding, to embrace the hand that broke your ribs. But a man who forgives too quickly is not enlightened, he is afraid. Afraid of conflict, afraid of confrontation, afraid of the abyss that truth opens beneath polite illusions. The truth is this: no act of cruelty should be met with blind kindness, not unless you wish to be devoured a second time. Forgiveness without teeth is a sermon delivered in a graveyard, noble, poetic, and utterly useless to the living. Let us speak clearly. When you pardon someone who betrayed you, you are teaching everyone around you how to betray you. Safely, you're not just forgiving one man, you're setting a precedent. You are building a reputation not of strength but of softness. And in the brutal economy of power, softness is a liability. Reputation is armor. Every act of mercy puts another crack in it. Eventually, someone sees the weakness, aims straight for the fracture, and shatters you entirely. And when that happens, your noble mercy won't be remembered. Your downfall will be. The vultures will call you generous and tear you apart. With gratitude. So I ask you, who truly benefits from your forgiveness? You, or the one sharpening his knife behind the altar? You must understand, forgiveness is not peace. It is permission. When you extend mercy to someone who has wounded you deliberately, you are not ending the war. You are pausing it. You are offering your enemy the chance to reload. And history is clear. They always do. Think of Caesar, noble and naive, granting clemency to Brutus and Cassius. He believed kindness would breed loyalty. Instead, it bred conspiracy. He was not stabbed because he was cruel, he was stabbed because he was merciful. His killers saw the pardon not as grace, but as hesitation. And in the realm of power, hesitation is more dangerous than hate. It signals that your heart still governs your hand, and a ruler whose heart governs his hand dies with a dagger between his ribs. Power is not sustained by good intentions, it is sustained by consequences. You do not teach respect by offering affection. You teach it by making the cost of betrayal unforgettable. Pain is remembered, fear is inherited, but kindness, especially kindness undeserved, fades like perfume on a battlefield. The world forgets your good deeds the moment they smell weakness. You think you're being divine, transcending vengeance, elevating yourself, but what you're actually doing is gambling with your safety, your future, your very survival. And for what? To appear noble in the eyes of those who secretly laugh at your restraint? There is no virtue in becoming a victim twice. There is only blindness. Mercy, if it does not serve strategy, is a slow suicide. Forgiveness is often the final delusion of the broken, a myth clung to by those too weary to fight, too idealistic to accept the savagery of man. They wrap themselves in morality like a shroud, hoping it will protect them from the inevitable, the return of the knife, the rebirth of betrayal. But no amount of virtue can tame a predator. No sermon ever stopped a bullet. And yet we are told to turn the other cheek, to love our enemies, to believe that compassion will civilize the beast. What idiocy! The beast smiles when you lower your guard. It waits for the second cheek, then breaks your jaw. You do not tame wolves with kindness. You teach them to fear your fire. Without that fear, you are not their savior. You are their next meal. Look around. The history of power is written in blood, not forgiveness. The leaders who endured, who left empires behind them, were not those who forgave traitors. They were the ones who made betrayal unthinkable. Cesare Borgia understood this. When conspirators moved against him, he executed them not in private, but in public. With precision, he turned revenge into theater, a message carved in flesh: cross me, and you will not rise again. And what followed? Stability, obedience, order. This is the brutal arithmetic of power. Fear preserves what mercy cannot. So ask yourself, what do you wish to preserve? Your reputation for kindness? Or your dominion, your peace of mind, or your ability to command? Because in this world, you cannot keep both. There is a lie whispered into the ears of every would-be leader, that to forgive is to rise above, that vengeance is base and primitive, and that only the truly wise let go of the blade. But let us shatter this illusion. To forgive without calculation is not wisdom. It is laziness baptized in moral language. It is the refusal to engage with reality as it is, brutal, cunning, indifferent to your ideals. To rise above your enemies without first ensuring they cannot rise again is not ascension. It is negligence. The truth is this: those who pose a threat must be neutralized, not hugged. The man who stabs you today and receives a pardon will return tomorrow with a sharper knife, and he will aim for your heart. Forgiveness, when offered too freely, corrupts the very structure of discipline. Among soldiers, allies, employees, even within your family, it sends a dangerous signal that betrayal has no cost, that loyalty is optional, that consequences are myths. And once that idea takes root, you will not need enemies to bring you down. Your own people will do it. Slowly, subtly, one compromise at a time. They will test your boundaries, push your patience, betray your trust, and each time you forgive, they learn a new rule, that your mercy is infinite and your spine negotiable. But mercy should be rare, like thunder from a clear sky. When it appears, it must be felt as a miracle, not as a policy. Only then does it retain its power. Only then does it serve the throne instead of sabotaging it. You must remember, power is not a product of love. It is a product of fear. People may sing your praises when you forgive, but they will obey you when they know you do not hesitate to punish. Praise is cheap. Obedience is currency. And the deeper truth, the one most fear to admit, is this: people do not change because you spare them. They change because they fear what will happen if they do not. This is not cynicism. This is anatomy. The nervous system reacts to threat, not kindness. A man may kneel in gratitude for your mercy, but only if he believes you could have ended him. If not, he kneels only to study your weakness, So let every pardon you grant be wrapped in silence and shadow, a ghost of what could have been. Let them walk away not relieved, but shaken. Mercy must come from a place of undeniable dominance. Only then does it not corrode your authority. Only then does it become a symbol of restraint, not surrender. But to forgive before your position is secured, before your strength is unquestioned, is not strategy. It is self-sabotage. The unearned mercy you offer becomes a rope in your enemy's hands, and one day they will hang you with it. Understand this. True forgiveness is a form of theater. It is not about healing. It is about performance. It must be calculated, timed, and above. All too rare. Overused, it becomes noise. Ignored, it becomes poison. Used wisely, it becomes awe. Your enemies must believe that you are merciful only because you choose to be, not because you need to be. That difference is the line between Caesar and a corpse. There is a sacred cruelty in survival, a coldness that does not stem from hatred, but from clarity. To live, truly live, in a world of wolves requires more than virtue. It requires the ability to bite back. Forgiveness, offered recklessly, is like feeding raw meat to a starving beast and expecting loyalty in return. He may eat from your hand today, but only because you fed him. Tomorrow, when the hunger returns, your hand is next. This is the rhythm of nature. No creature respects weakness. They may tolerate it. They may even mimic affection. But deep in their instincts, the law is written, devour or be devoured. So why then should man, this bipedal contradiction of intellect and instinct, imagine himself above it? And yet he does. Wrapped in books, cloaked in doctrine, fed on sermons and fairy tales, man believes he can pacify the abyss with affection. He believes forgiveness is evolution, a sign he has outgrown the primal. But this is a fantasy built by the conquered. It is the song of slaves sung to their children so they may dream of peace while in chains. Nietzsche would spit on such lullabies. For him, strength was not cruelty, but honesty. And honesty demands that we stop lying to ourselves about the nature of betrayal. Those who seek your downfall are not healed by mercy. They are inspired by it. Mercy tells them you still believe in redemption, and that belief is the lever by which they will pry your crown from your skull. The sentimental soul clings to mercy like a drowning man clings to driftwood, not because it will save him, but because he cannot accept the ocean's indifference. But the ocean does not care, and neither do your enemies. They do not look upon your mercy as a miracle. They see it as hesitation. They interpret your pause as a signal that your heart still negotiates with your instincts, that your hands still tremble before they strike. And in the court of power, trembling is treason. A leader who hesitates loses the room. A general who forgives too soon breeds mutiny. A king who loves his enemies dies on the floor of his own palace, surrounded by men he once spared. True power does not ask for applause. It does not care to be loved. It only demands to be respected, and if possible, feared. Love is fragile, conditional, and easily lost, but fear lingers. It survives storms, outlasts affection, and etches itself into memory. The ruler who inspires fear never has to raise his voice. His silence is enough. And so I ask you, which reputation do you cultivate? The benevolent fool whose mercy is expected, or the untouchable force whose forgiveness is feared because it is rare, deliberate, and always preceded by the knowledge of what could have been? Mercy, if it is to mean anything, must arrive like lightning, unexpected, blinding, unforgettable. What fools call cruelty, the wise call insurance. You don't crush an enemy out of anger. You crush him so that you never have to look over your shoulder again. It is not about revenge. It is about peace. A peace built not on promises or illusions, but on certainty. The certainty that no hand will rise again once it has been broken. Machiavelli did not preach violence for its own sake. He was no sadist. He was a realist, perhaps the last honest one. His warning was simple. Harm, if it must be done completely. Wound a man, and you make an enemy. Destroy him, and you remove a variable. The math is brutal, but it does not lie. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is full of hopeful arithmetic. You gamble that kindness will breed loyalty, that clemency will build bridges. But bridges are only useful when both sides wish to cross. And what if they don't? What if your Enemy smiles, walks halfway, and then plants explosives beneath your feet. Mercy has no answer for that. Only caution does, only clarity. If you are to forgive, it must be because it strengthens your hand, not weakens your walls. And if it does not, then do what must be done, cleanly, without apology, without performance. The only real morality in power is survival. Everything else is a costume worn by corpses. There is a cruelty worse than vengeance. It is the cruelty of false mercy, of half measures dressed as virtue, of weak leaders who, in their fear of appearing brutal, allow treachery to ferment beneath smiles and handshakes. They claim to forgive in the name of peace, but what peace is born from unpunished betrayal? It is not peace, it is delay. It is rot behind the wallpaper, and when the decay spreads, it consumes not only the guilty, but the innocent who depended on your strength. Mercy without foresight is not compassion. It is cowardice that wears a halo. You think you're preserving harmony, when in truth you're feeding snakes and praying they become sheep. But snakes do not change, they shed their skin, and every act of mercy you offer them becomes another layer of camouflage, and how quickly the world forgets. They cheer your compassion today, and tomorrow they carve your name into marble, not in reverence, but in remembrance of your mistake. He forgave his enemies, they'll say. He believed too much in the goodness of men, as if those were noble. Flaws, they are not. They are failures of vision, and vision is the one thing a ruler cannot lose. Once your people believe that you value ideals over survival, they will not protect you. They will abandon you, because they know, even if you refuse to admit it, that danger obeys no virtue. Fire consumes the righteous and the wicked alike. And when the time comes, when betrayal breaks through your gates and seizes your crown, you will see it clearly, perhaps for the first time, that your downfall was not born of evil. It was born of forgiveness. To forgive is to place your fate in the hands of another man's conscience, a man who already proved he had none. It is to believe that the fire that once sought to burn you can now be reasoned with. But fire does not repent. It consumes what it touches, and then it waits to consume again. You cannot negotiate with a force that only respects destruction. Yet this is the delusion so many cling to, that through mercy they can rewrite the nature of things, that their goodness can tame ambition, can soothe resentment, can overwrite the primal hunger for power. But this is not how the world works. It never has been. Your forgiveness is not an antidote to betrayal. It is the perfume poured over the body before the burial. Even worse, it breeds more betrayal, not only from your enemies, but from those closest to you. They begin to wonder, if he forgave them, will he also forgive me? And in that question lies the birth of opportunism. Mercy creates a market of risk-takers. It invites testing. It signals that boundaries can be crossed without consequence. And the more you tolerate, the more they will push, not because they are evil, but because they are human. Weakness is a magnet. It draws out the worst in people not because they hate you, but because they smell a chance. So understand this. Your forgiveness does not make you righteous. It makes you a precedent, a signal, a case study in what happens when punishment is replaced by optimism. And those who study you will not be your disciples. They will be your successors. Look to history, not the fairy tales, but the blood-soaked pages written by men who refused to learn. Julius Caesar, brilliant, beloved, doomed. He forgave those who had once stood against him, believing that mercy would unify Rome. He offered peace to wolves and expected them to become shepherds. Instead, they sharpened their blades and turned the Senate floor into a butcher's altar. He died not for his cruelty, but for his compassion. And in that death we see the eternal pattern. The idealist is devoured by those who know the game better than he does. They know that power is not preserved by love. It is preserved by fear, by clarity, by ruthlessness disguised as necessity. Now contrast Caesar with Cesare Borgia, Machiavelli's iron idol. Borgia did not forgive his enemies. He hunted them, not out of hatred, but out of understanding. When betrayal stirred beneath the surface, he did not debate. He did not weep. He acted, swiftly, publicly. He displayed dismembered bodies like warnings carved in flesh. And the result? Order, obedience, peace. Not the fragile peace of trust, but the durable peace of deterrence. He taught the world that punishment was not optional, and that loyalty was not requested. It was required. This is not a call to savagery. It is a call to sanity, to abandon the fantasy that you can lead through sentiment alone, to recognize that mercy, when given without strategy, is not strength. It is a signal that says, I am unwilling to do what survival demands. And what of the modern world? Do you believe we have evolved beyond such calculations? That politics, business, even friendship operate on higher planes now? Wake up. The faces may have changed, the daggers may be digital, but the rules remain carved in the marrow of humanity. The leader who forgives betrayal in the boardroom is replaced by one who will not. The friend who overlooks repeated disloyalty becomes the punchline to someone else's story. The partner who pardons again and again becomes not noble, but disposable. In every arena of life, your boundaries are being tested, not always by malice, sometimes by curiosity, sometimes by hunger. But the test is real, and the outcome depends not on your heart, but on your spine. Forgiveness, in this context, is not healing, it is broadcast. It tells the world exactly how far you can be pushed before you break. It outlines your limits like a blueprint, and blueprints are not read by saints, they are studied by opportunists. The more merciful you are, the more visible your fault lines become. And the more visible they become, the faster others will walk right up to them, smile, and apply pressure. It starts small. A skipped responsibility here, a backhanded comment there, a decision made without your input. But soon, you are no longer the center. You are the weak star collapsing under the weight of your own kindness. And once the collapse begins, no apology will stop it. Only a reckoning will. Reputation is not just how the world sees you, it is how the world calculates you. Every act of mercy alters the math. The soldier thinks, perhaps I too can fail and be spared. The rival thinks, he lacks the stomach to finish what he starts. The subordinate thinks, rules bend if pushed hard enough. Mercy becomes a map, and on that map your weaknesses are marked like treasure. You think you're building trust, but what you're building is opportunity. Not for peace, but for defiance. This is why Machiavelli insisted that a ruler must punish not with hesitation, but with precision. Not out of rage, but out of necessity. Because only decisive acts rewrite the equations others use to assess your power. When people see you punish betrayal with finality, they remember. When they see you forgive it, they begin to forget. And what they forget is fear. Not the terror of violence, but the sacred, silent respect that prevents chaos before it begins. Mercy is not the opposite of cruelty. It is a kind of amnesia. It erases the memory of consequence. It whispers, all things can be mended, but not all things should be. Some fractures are warnings. Some betrayals are boundaries. When you forgive what should have been punished, you are not just tolerating the past. You are negotiating your future. And in that negotiation, the terms are written in your enemy's favor. He knows now how far you will go, or rather how far you won't. And that knowledge is the most dangerous weapon you'll ever hand him. There is a silence that follows decisive action, a silence more powerful than applause. When you strike once and without mercy, you do not need to strike again. The message echoes longer than any speech, louder than any sermon. Your enemies stop whispering. Your allies stop wondering. Everyone listens. And in that stillness, power settles. It roots itself, not because they love you, but because they finally understand. You are not to be tested. This is the kind of peace no treaty can guarantee. It is the peace of reputation, the peace of inevitability. But to reach it, you must first kill the part of you that still wants to be understood, forgiven, liked. That part is your executioner in disguise, because in the game of power, forgiveness is rarely interpreted as strength. It is interpreted as a glitch, a pause, a flicker of sentimentality in a world that punishes. Softness like treason. You might believe you're being the bigger person, that you've taken the high road, but your enemies are not climbing. They are crawling through mud, with knives between their teeth. They are not watching your virtue. They are watching your hesitation, and hesitation is the first step toward defeat. So forgive only when it serves your empire, your name, your strategy. Forgive only when your sword is already at their throat, and even then, only if the silence that follows will keep others awake at night. Let them call you cruel. Let them call you heartless, tyrannical, monstrous. These are the cries of the unprepared, the voices of those who believed life was fair and power was polite. But you are not here to be adored. You are here to endure, to command, to last. And the throne, in whatever form it takes, whether in politics, in business, in love, or within your own mind, it is not kept by virtue. It is kept by vigilance. The crown does not belong to the kindest. It belongs to the clearest, to the one who sees that mercy, when misused, is not healing, it is sabotage, the chain that looks like compassion but tightens around your neck the moment you hesitate. This is Machiavelli's final warning. If you spare your enemy, be certain he will not spare you. So I leave you with this. Before you forgive, ask not if it is noble. Ask if it is necessary. Ask what it teaches. Ask who is watching. Ask if it builds your wall or opens your gates. And if the answer is weakness, even for a moment, do not forgive. Do not pause. Strike. And strike in such a way that the memory of your decision becomes its own kind of law. Because in the end, you will not be judged by how kindly you forgave. You will be judged by whether you survived. And survival in this brutal theater we call existence is not a matter of righteousness. It is a matter of resolve. Mercy can be beautiful, yes, but only if it leaves no doubt who granted it and why they never, ever had to.